So in the last video, we introduced you to the concept of, well, what happens to the budget line or that budget constraint if the price of just one good changes? And we talked about, well, what happens if the price of tacos change? Now we're going to talk about, well, what happens if the price for burgers change? So we're going to have roughly the same concept going on. It's just the matter of how the lines are shifting. So what if we double the price of hamburgers? Hamburger prices go up from $1.25, like what they've been, to $2.50. What we're going to have is now, because the burgers cost more, we cannot afford as many burgers. So because we can't afford as many burgers, we're going to wind up buying less burgers, or we're going to have only the option of buying less burgers. What that means is we're going to have a rightward rotation, or clockwise. So if you remember our nice little clock from the last diagram, you have 12 up here, 1, 2, 3 would be right there, 6, that's a horrible 6, and a 9. And we said that that clock moves rightward in a clockwise rotation. So if we look at our line right here, this was our original line, this red line. And it's actually going to move clockwise. It's going to rotate to the right. It's going to rotate clockwise. And basically what that's saying is that when the price of hamburgers double, the maximum amount of hamburgers that we can now buy, given our budget of $5, is 2 hamburgers. Even if we consume no tacos, we can only consume 2 hamburgers. What happens if the price is cut in half on hamburgers? Naturally, we can afford more. We can buy more hamburgers. So that what's going to happen is it's going to create a leftward rotation, or a counterclockwise rotation, and that's actually going to rotate to the left. And it's going to have that counterclockwise. And what we notice is, instead of only being able to buy 4 hamburgers of what the original line is, if we bought no tacos whatsoever, we can now afford 8 hamburgers total. So now we have a leftward and a rightward rotation. And again, if the price of hamburgers, say they're cut in half, we can now buy, say we still bought 5 tacos and the price of hamburgers were cut in half, now we can consume 4 hamburgers as well. Versus under the original budget line, we could have only consumed 2 hamburgers. Or if the price of hamburgers double, we can only consume 1.5 hamburgers. So we can see how the amount of hamburgers will either increase or decrease depending on if the prices are cut in half. The amount of hamburgers that we can consume will increase at any given level of tacos. On the other side, if the price of hamburgers increase, the amount that we can consume will fall given any level of tacos. So why is this the case? Why do we have this rotation? What's really going on? Well, if you stop and think about it just conceptually, fundamentally, a higher price basically means you can buy less of that good. But this will not affect the maximum amount that you can buy of the other good. Just like what we said in the last video, that the price of tacos, if the price of tacos changed, it did not affect the maximum amount of hamburgers you could buy, assuming you only ate hamburgers. In this same case, it doesn't matter what the price of hamburgers are. If you ate only tacos, you could still only consume 10 tacos. So it really doesn't matter, or the higher price, yes, it means you buy less of the good, or lower prices typically mean you buy more, but it will not affect the maximum amount that you would buy of the other good. But if we look at this mathematically and we bring in the slope of that budget line, remember that the slope of the budget line is equal to the price of tacos divided by the price of hamburgers. So a change in that price ratio will change the slope of the budget line. So just that's where the mathematical side comes in. And you could plug in the different prices of, say, remember that it's the negative burgers divided by tacos. And we say, all right, well, the price of burgers is $2.50. Price of tacos is 50 cents. So now $2.50 divided by 50 cents is 5. The slope of that curve is now 5. It's now become steeper. Versus under the other way, where we said the price of hamburgers was $1.25, price of tacos was 50 cents, and we actually had a slope of negative 1 or 2.5. Or we could use this last one and figure out that that slope actually becomes flatter as the price of hamburgers fall. So we mathematically, it's showing that the slope of the budget line is changing because these prices are changing. Now I want to hit on one last but very important note that's going to kind of tie everything in together. So it seems like we talked about the indifference curves and how we are trying to maximize our amount of utility. And then we talk about our budget line, and we're saying that we can buy certain combinations of goods, but we have to stay inside of our budget line. And we say that the slope of the budget line is equal to negative of the price ratio. So the slope of the budget line, believe it or not, actually has to also equal this particular little equation. And if you remember this equation, it's coming off of that indifference curve. And that was some of that justification for why the indifference curve always equals the same amount of total utility. And you know, we're saying that this indifference curve essentially has to equal the slope of the budget line. At that marginal rate of substitution, remember that marginal rate of substitution was the slope of the indifference curve, and it has to equal this budget line. And we're saying that right here. But why is this the case? Well, if you think about it, you must stay within your budget, hence the slope of the budget line. You must stay within that budget. You can never exceed that budget. You can never exceed, or the amount of income or the amount of total expenditures cannot exceed that budget line. So you're working off of that budget line. But at the same token, you're attempting to maximize your utility, your satisfaction. Remember, you're maximizing that utility maximization is determined in that indifference curve. So that kind of leads back to that fundamental concept that we've said several times throughout all these videos. Consumers attempt to maximize their utility given a limited budget. And that's tying both of those in together. So that is actually going to be discussed a little bit more as we tie in the indifference curve and the budget line together, but just kind of know that they need to work together because of that simple aspect that consumers are trying to maximize their utility, the indifference curve, given a limited budget, that budget line. But remember, with all of this, just please remember that we're looking at what combination of two goods are we willing to consume. Throughout all of this, in the fancy equations, fancy math, we're simply just looking at what, if we have a choice between tacos and hamburgers or a combination of both, what is the combination that we are going to choose? What is that combination that, as a consumer, we are going to choose given our limited budget, knowing that we're trying to maximize our satisfaction?